The fo-
Sorry.
That's okay. The focus will be on how you can prepare yourselves and your family. Um, but everything that I talk about in this presentation, you can take away and use it as it um, refers to your business. So the first thing, disasters can strike quickly and without warning, which is why it's very important that we prepare for them. A disaster is any event that overwhelms local resources and requires the assistance of outside organizations in order to respond or recover from it. So during a disaster, first responders might not be able to get to you right away. That's why it's important that you're prepared, your family is prepared, and especially that your business is prepared, because most of you and your employees could be at work when that happens. So just having a plan in place and knowing what to do is the first step to being prepared. That way, if first responders can't get to you, you know what to do, your employees know what to do, and your family knows what to do. So preparedness starts on an individual level. So that's why it's important when you're thinking about being prepared, you're thinking about making a plan, building a kit, being informed. You're thinking about how it refers to you and your family. And then from there, you can start thinking about your business and your employees and preparing them. So we'll talk about making a plan. A few things you'll want to think about. There's a few questions you might want to evaluate and talk about with your family. If you're going to sit down and think about it as it applies to your business, you'll want to think about these questions as well. So how will you escape your home, or how will you leave your business if it is affected by a disaster? What supplies will you need? Where will you meet your family members if you are at home, or if you're at work, where will you and your employees meet? What route will you take out of your neighborhood if you need to evacuate? Do you have alternate routes? Roads can get blocked. If you think about an earthquake, if a tree falls, a road can get blocked. If you're at work and you need to get home, are there alternate routes that you can take? What will you take with you? So we'll kind of go into this more as we get through the presentation, but we'll talk about building a kit. I have my under the desk kit that I'll show you guys what it has in it. That way, if you want to build one to have it work, you can kind of get an idea of what you should have with you. Where will you go? So if you're thinking about if you're at work and are you going to go home? Is it safe to go home? Do you need to have another meeting place that you will meet your employees or your family? What will you do when that happens? And will you need to shelter in place? So there are some disasters where the advisory might be to not leave, and it might be to shelter in place. So for that, you'll need other equipment, and you'll need to know what you're going to do if that happens, and do you have enough supplies to last you if you do need to eventually shelter in place. So as far as making a plan goes for your home, we encourage we have community emergency response team members, and I'll talk about that group towards the end, but we encourage all of them to, at the beginning of the year, meet with your family and discuss what you will need to prepare for a disaster. It could be as simple as sitting down at the dinner table at dinner, going over an emergency plan if you already have one, or if not, I will share a template with Linda and she can share it with you guys. And then that template can be used if you're going to use it for your business or if you want to use it for your family. But it goes over everything that you'll need as far as you can fill out emergency contacts, your evacuation routes. But when you sit down with your family, and we even say if you have young children, teenagers, you'll want them to be a part of this process too. That way they know what's going on, and they feel comfortable. The whole thing about preparedness is that if you sit down and you figure out who are your emergency contacts, where you'll go, and everybody is on the same page, you have a little bit more confidence after a disaster happens that you know what you're going to do. You're not in that frantic oh my gosh mode. So you'll think about what could happen. There is a list of hazards, and I'll share all of these links with Linda. There's a list of hazards for Pierce County on their website, and it goes through all of the different natural disasters that we could experience and how it would affect certain areas. So I think that that's a really cool website to check out if you get a chance. So you'll think about all of those natural disasters. You'll want to create a checklist of what you and your family need. That way throughout the year, you can kind of prepare a little bit more. And sharing the responsibility is very important. So everybody in your family should have a role. Everybody in your business should have a role and feel confident that they know what they're going to do when that disaster strikes. And then another thing that we always like to add to, because sometimes our little pets are forgotten about, but it's always important to include them in your disaster plans as well. Especially if you're thinking about if you are at work and your pet is at home, is somebody going to be there to take care of them? How are you going to get to your pet? What are you going to do to make sure that they're okay after the disaster? And then the little infographic that I shared, there is a template online for preparedness that's just, it's a little foldable, and you can print that out, and every member of your family can have one, and you can just store it in your purse or backpack. That way it's accessible to everybody, and if you are out and about and a disaster happens, you can pull it out and make sure that you have important phone numbers and things like that. So part of making a plan is having a meeting location. So this one is specific to your home, but like I said, you can always adapt it to your business. If you're thinking about an evacuation route, you always want to make sure that you have two. So a primary escape path and a secondary escape path. Just because the primary escape path, it could be blocked. If there's a fire, you know, it might be a little bit harder to get out. So you always want to have a secondary one, and you make sure that you're always thinking about 2 points of egress, so 2 points to leave out of either your home or your business. And the biggest thing is practicing that escape plan. You can write it down and think everybody knows what the escape plan is, but you want to make sure that you're practicing it. That way it just becomes second nature to leave through those ways, and make sure that everybody knows how they're getting out, because that is an important part. You want to make sure that everybody knows how to get out of your house or your business. I know when I first started working at the fire station, there were so many exits that I didn't even know about. So it's always good if you're thinking about your business to kind of map that out for your employees and show them how they would get out of the building, even taking, like I said, practicing and taking a tour around the building. That way they do know all of their points of egress. And then outside of your neighborhood, so outside of your home or your business, if something happens and the building is unsafe to go in, where will you meet? Where will you go? It's important to think about, if you're talking with your family, if you're at work or your kids are at school, what is the plan then? How will you contact each other? What is the meeting location? That way, you know, if your kids are at school and your intention is to meet them at the school, and a disaster happens and they're scared, and let's say they're teenagers and they're able to leave, you don't want to be looking for them in a disaster. That can get a little bit stressful. So just making sure that everybody is on the same page is the most important part of making a plan. And then communication, as far as making a plan, there is something called an out of area contact. So I've kind of shared the picture online, but it looks like this. It's just a little card that you can print out. An out of area contact is going to be somebody who's at least 300 miles away. And it's somebody that everybody in your family will contact in case phone lines are plugged up here. So the idea is that if you and your family can't get a hold of each other, you'll contact somebody who lives far away from where the disaster would have happened, because they won't be affected. You'll tell them your location, your status, And then everybody in the family should be reaching out to that one person to get everybody's status, their location. Because if a disaster happens and you're all trying to reach each other, phone lines can get plugged up where you are, but it won't affect your out of area contact. So it could be easier to reach them. And then everybody in your family can contact them. That way, everybody knows exactly who to contact. That way, one person is getting the information. So these little cards are great because you can just fold it up and put it in a wallet or in a purse. And that way you have it. And we always recommend texting instead of calling. So text will go through a lot easier after a disaster rather than a phone call. A phone call can easily be dropped. Lines can get plugged, so you could be waiting to get those phone calls. And so texting is the best way to get a hold of somebody. Another thing that we recommend is that if you do have an older adult in your family, this picture on the left here shows that you can put their contact information or their emergency contact information, the relationship, phone number, and screenshot it and make it their home screen. That way, if anything happens to them and somebody finds them, they can look at that home screen and use that contact information to call their emergency contact. When you are making your emergency communication plan, if you do have a child that goes to school, you'll want to make sure that you write down all of their school's contact information. That way, if you need to get a hold of them after a disaster, you're not looking for all of that information online. Because like I said, everything can get plugged up as far as using data. And so having everything kind of written down makes it easier to find all of that information. Everybody should have a contact or should have a copy of the workplace's contact, so your spouse's workplace contact. That way, if you can't get a hold of them, you can try to get a hold of their work. And then practicing this, especially if you have an out of area contact person. You'd of course want to let them know that they're your out of area contact person and what their role would be, and make sure that they feel comfortable with that. And then practicing that, maybe taking a day, letting them know, you're all going to contact them with your status and your location, and just doing a trial run and making sure that it goes okay and it goes well and everybody is on the same page. And then for your pets, before a disaster even happens, getting the emergency supplies for your pets, like I said, making sure that everybody is on the same page as far as what you'll do if you're not home, how will you get to your pet, how will you make sure that they're okay. And then during a disaster, if you are at home or you're near your pet, make sure to bring them inside so they're not exposed to whatever natural disaster is going on. And then after, making sure that you keep a leash on them. Like I said, during a disaster, it's hard to contact people. It's hard to get a lot of information right after. So if you do lose your pet, it could be hard to find them, especially if you're thinking about all of the rubble that could happen if an earthquake were to strike. That's usually the one that we go to when we're thinking about natural disasters, just because that's what we're prone to here in the Pacific Northwest. And then lots of love for your pet, just because it is a hard time. I know if it's scary for us, it's scary for your pet, making sure that they feel loved and protected. And so there's an emergency checklist for a pet. It talks about having a week of food, 3 days of water, a first aid kit for your pet, their medications, having their medical records printed out and having a hard copy, their microchip numbers, collars and ID tags. We recommend having a recent photo of you and your pet all the time. That way, if you do lose them, you can kind of show it around and try to find them. An emergency sticker on your door so that people know that your pet is in there in case you aren't home. Litter and tray for your cats, the poop bags and cleaners, carriers and leashes, and then blankets and toys. And then after you've made your plan, you'll want to build a kit. So this could be for your work and for your home. I have a picture there of what an emergency kit might look like. You'll want water, food, first aid kit, necessary paperwork, and then extra. So I can go over what I have here. This is my under the desk kit. As you can see, it's pretty compact, easy to grab in case I need to run out of my office. I keep it right under my desk so that I can grab it, or there is an earthquake and you have to stop, cover and hold on. It's right there with me right after the earthquake. We do have some hygiene items in our kits, just in case, we have to stay at work overnight, you're not able to get out. You do want to have these comfort items like a toothbrush, toothpaste, deodorant. That way, however long you're here, you'll be comfortable. We do have MREs in our work kits. These are packaged foods that are ready to eat. They last for years, so there's no need to worry about them going bad. And just in an emergency, it's good to have these. They're very nutritional too. You don't need to eat a lot of them. And then we do have a warning on the back. So I think about this as well if you're gonna make under the desk kits and have these. These meal bars are not reusable once you open them. So it's a good thing to keep in mind, and just reminding people that if they are around others, that you use one MRE at a time. So you're sharing yours. That way they don't expire and go bad in case you don't know how long you'll actually need to rely on these. We also have a first aid kit. So this contains a biohazard bag, the survival wrap. So those are the emergency blankets, gloves, and then bandages and gauze in here in case anybody does get hurt. After an emergency, you can take care of yourself or others around you. And then with that, we also put in an emergency first aid guide. So it's just written out instructions on how to use the emergency kit, what you should do, so like checking the scene, calling 911, caring for the person. And then we talk about what to do if you go into shock or if somebody else goes into shock, how to treat bleeding, cuts and scrapes, burns, and cardiac arrest. And while it may seem like you should know what to do right after a disaster happens, you have to think you'll be in shock, others will be in shock. So always having those written steps will be helpful. That way, if you really can't think of what to do, you can read it and go through those steps and making sure that you're taking care of yourself or another person safely. We have some emergency tape just in case you do need to shelter in place and close off any of the entrances. We have an emergency whistle. This is very important in case you do get trapped either in your office, under a desk, anywhere at work. If you can grab your kit and blow your whistle, people will know that you need help and they can more easily follow the sound to find you. Hand warmers, if you can put any hand warmers, heel warmers, anything like that in your emergency kit, this will help with shock. That is a good thing to have. A poncho, in case you need to go into the elements after you have to leave work, that way you're not exposed. We do have a glow stick just because the power can go out. So having a glow stick or a flashlight in your emergency kit, that way you can more easily find your way through your building if the power goes out, if there is damage to the building. Glass could break on the floor. If the power goes out, you might not be able to see it. So having some sort of light source in your emergency kit, that way people can kind of navigate their way out of the building a little bit safer. And then we keep a ton of emergency water in our go bag, just because you'll want to stay hydrated. That is one of the most important things. Once you're dehydrated, it gets a little bit harder to hydrate yourself. So we buy these. These are just little, let's take one out here. These are little packs of emergency drinking water. They're a little bit more flat, a little bit more easier to store than, let's say, a water bottle. So we like to buy these and we just fill it up with a ton. So I think we have about 15 in here, and it just sits at the bottom. And the packaging on the reusable water like this lasts longer than a plastic water bottle, so it's a little bit safer to drink. So that is everything.
How much longer does that water keep compared to bottled water?
Yeah, it's a few years. So
Okay.
I believe the ones that we just bought are going to, well, we bought them in 2021. They expire in 2025. So they last about 4 years. The packaging lasts 4 years. And so the water will still be safe to drink afterwards. That's just the
Recommended.
best after. We like to replace it after the expiration date.
Okay, and you can purchase that
On
there.
Amazon. Yeah, you can find it on Amazon. Once this presentation is done too, I can send you some links,
Right.
Linda, you can share with everybody else, and I'll make sure to include the drinking water and other supplies.
Great. Okay, thanks, Serena.
Of course. And then for like I said, work, that's great to keep under the desk. If you're at home, having an under the bed kit, that way you know where it is, you can easily grab it and go. Or even putting a kit near a point of egress, so near a door where you'll most likely be leaving, that way you can kind of grab it and go. So more for the water, if you're building a kit that's going to last you longer than or for 72 hours or a little bit longer, so besides the go kit, you do want to have 1 gallon per person per day, and that is for eating, cleaning yourself, and that is a lot of water to think about, but we also think about treating our water. So there's different ways to treat your water with bleach, and then there are also little tablets that you can buy that you can treat water so that it's safe. That way you're not having to always get it from the faucet. Also, faucet water can be contaminated after a disaster. So that's kind of stuff that you want to start thinking about is water storage. What kind of water do you have? You think about in your home, your water bottles, your toilet tank has water. And if it comes down to that and you're having to use all of those different water sources, how will you treat it to make sure that it's safe? And so there are a few little concoctions that you can do with bleach, or you can buy the little tablets that'll filter the water. And I'll share that with you as well. And that way we print them out and we put them here at the station. We print them out and we put them near our MREs. That way, if people are having to go and use the MREs to eat, we know that they're probably going to have to start finding other water sources besides water bottles. And so having all of that information and all of those supplies in one place, that way you're knowing how to safely treat your water, is a good idea. And so once you have thought about making a plan and you've talked about that with your family and you've built your kit, you can always take it a step further and start to get involved. Our community emergency response team, like I was talking about earlier, we hold those classes here at West Pierce Fire and Rescue. It's 6 classes. We go over different disaster preparedness things like light search and rescue. So how to search a building if a disaster happens and people could be trapped in there. We go over disaster medical. So more about how to treat shock, how to bandage up those cuts and scrapes, how to treat burns, how to use a tourniquet correctly. We go over fire safety. So there's a picture up top, and that is our CERT members practicing how to use a fire extinguisher here on the drill grounds safely with firefighters present. Um, and then disaster psychology. So, how to help people who are in shock, how to help those who are struggling after a disaster, how to take care of yourself mentally after a disaster. So, that is a great class to take if you're interested in taking your preparedness a step further, preparing your family. We offer those. I'll share my contact information at the end of this presentation. We are not sure when we'll be able to hold those again, just because it is an in-person class. A lot of it does rely on physical training, but we do have an interest list that we have running so that we can contact people when we start up again. MYN is Map Your Neighborhood. That is another program that we have. That is meeting with people who are in your neighborhood. That way everybody knows who's there, what they might need help with. If you have anybody in your family with access and functional needs, if you have people in your neighborhood who are aware of that in case you aren't home, they know to go check the house, help your neighbors when they are in danger. That's what we like to say, if you can check on others, you should definitely check to make sure that they're doing okay. Prepare in a Year is a great program. You just complete one activity a month to prepare you and your family for disasters. So the month of January is making a communication plan. So for the month of January, you would just focus on that. And then February is creating an action plan. March is storing water. So you focus on one task a month so that by the end of the year, you are more prepared. So that is a great resource, and I will share that as well, just because it makes it a little bit less overwhelming to focus on one task a month rather than thinking like right now, like, oh my gosh, I have to get my go kit ready, I have to get my plan ready, I have to get my water ready. You'll focus on one thing a month. That way, by the end of the year, you're more prepared. And then as the next year comes around, you're just revamping everything, making sure that everything is not expired, that it's good, if you can add anything extra. And it just makes it, like I said, a lot less overwhelming, because I know that preparing and thinking about all of the things that you need to do to prepare can get a little bit overwhelming. And then it makes you not even want to do the task to begin with. And then you'll want to be informed. So Pierce County Alert is something that you can sign up for on your phone. They'll send alerts to your phone. That way, if something happens, most of us have our phones with us. We can easily see that alert, and you can sign up for alerts in different areas. That way, if your kids go to school somewhere else, or your spouse works in a different area, you can get those alerts as well and know what's going on where they are. The NOAA weather radio, I put the channel on there and the emergency radio system. If you have one of those, we do recommend having those in your kits or somewhere in your home, just because that's the quickest way to get updates on what to do next after a disaster happens. And then the emergency alert system is another system that you can sign up for on your phone that'll send you alerts. I did list a few links on there. So ready.gov is the best place to start if you are feeling overwhelmed, just because they have so much different information on there. I would say, especially for your business, if you want to start thinking about business continuity plans. So those are plans for how your business will handle itself after a disaster happens. That way, if your operations are halted or anything like that, you can start thinking about what you'll do to actually prepare your business itself, not just you. And so that is ready.gov is a great place to start. They have some checklists on there, and it'll kind of take you through what you'll need as far as insurances and stuff like that. I will send that link, and that's a great place to start. The Pierce County website, like I said, they list all of the hazards here in Pierce County, and they have a great thing on there that'll show all of the hazards and what they mean, how it'll affect you. That way you can start thinking about what you'll actually need to prepare for. And that's a great thing to kind of sit down with your family and look at. And then the Emergency Management Division of Washington, that is where Prepare in a Year comes from. So they have that Prepare in a Year information. And they just have other little videos that you can watch to start preparing yourself. And then my favorite quote, by failing to prepare, you are preparing to fail. So I know that, like I said, it's a little bit overwhelming, but the biggest step is starting. I think once you start, it makes it a little bit easier. And then just realizing how important it is to prepare. I know we don't like to think about the worst thing that could happen, but when you start to think about that and start to prepare, like I said, you'll gain a little bit more confidence. I know that before I came here and before I started really thinking about preparedness, I wasn't really sure what to do or where to start. But now that I kind of go through it, I've done it here at work and I can start preparing my family. I feel a little bit more confident that everybody in my family knows what to do and that we'll be okay if a disaster happens. And so I've shared my contact information, my email there. It's my first and last name at westpierce.org, so that if any of you need any additional information, want to reach out, you can. I do want to let you guys know we do have a presentation tonight from FAST Pierce County, so that's Functional and Accessible Needs team in Pierce County. They'll be doing a presentation for our CERT members on what they do here in Pierce County and how they help those with functional and access needs in shelters during a disaster. So if anybody is interested in that, you can email me for the Zoom link for that tonight. Thank you.
Great. Oof, that was a fire hose of info.
Yes, it is a lot. So if anybody has any questions, I'm open to questions as well.
Absolutely. Do we have any questions? Don't see hands. Okay, everybody's got their emergency preparedness kit together, right? It's under your desk? Yeah? Okay. All right. You know, I have a question, Serena. One of the things that I heard was during an earthquake or after an earthquake, that it was easier to utilize a landline than your cell phone. I understood that cell phone towers have a tendency to get impacted. Is that true, or is that just makes no difference?
The thing with landlines is that they can get tied up as well. So
Okay.
a lot of people using them, once that happens, they'll start to get tied up.
Okay.
So that's why we always recommend, if you do have your cell phone, if you can text, that is the best way to get a hold of anybody after a disaster.
Okay.
911 also utilizes that now, so you can text if something happens. So everybody's kind of moving to texting just because, especially the shorter the message, the easier it will go through.
Okay.
So that's the quickest and the best way to get a hold of somebody and to keep those lines from getting plugged up.
Good enough. Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Hey, Linda, on that same note, I learned that I guess the Salvation Army has a wireless system that's up and running all the time that anyone can access. I don't know how. I just remember at a presentation that they did that was available. So that might be something to look into as well.
Interesting. Do you know anything about that, Serena?
Yes. And then when he mentioned that also reminded me the Red Cross also has something where you can go online and put your status. And then your family can check that. So there is that resource on the Red Cross website as well.
Okay. So Salvation Army and Red Cross.
Yes.
Okay.
Well, this is Sue. I have a question and a comment. First of all, I think you just did an amazing job.
Thank
It was
you.
very wonderful. I've heard many presentations on preparedness. I'm a little bit prepared, but I think that you just covered everything so well and really appreciate the presentation.
Thank
My
you.
question is, you never know when you're going to be when there's a disaster. So should you have more than one kit, like one outside somewhere in a location, rather than being like, if it's under your bed and the bedroom caves in, then you don't have a kit anymore. So
Yeah, of course. We like to just start with one just to not overwhelm people. I know that sometimes also buying supplies and storing them is a lot. But if you can, it's always best to have them all around. So I have one in my car, I have one under my bed, I have one in the closet by a door that I could leave out of, and then my one here at work. So having them where you feel like you might be leaving, where you might pass one, is always great. That way you can just grab it and go. And if you could have multiple, that's even better.
great. Thank you.
You're welcome.
That's quite an investment. Yeah.
It is. It is. I'll share another infographic that I have with you when we get off, but there's a list of Dollar Tree items that you can get to put in your kit. So it'll make it a little bit cheaper. What we say too is if you have time, sometimes even doing just a scavenger hunt around your home,
Mhm.
there's some things that you don't use that could be useful in an emergency kit, and just
Sure.
kind of putting them all into one place. If you have the time to kind of go around and do that little scavenger hunt, it
That's
could
a
be
good point.
fun.
Yeah, yeah. Get the kids involved. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
Mhm. Okay. Anything else? Any other questions, comments? Yes, Miss Becky.
Yeah, just a couple of things. Serena, you mentioned you can put an emergency sticker on your home.
Mhm.
What is that?
So that's for more if you have like a pet in your home, or a family member who might need extra assistance. There's little stickers that you can buy that you can kind of put on your front door. That way, if anybody is walking by, or even if you do like a neighborhood meeting and you talk with your neighborhood about who's in your home, or if you have any pets, that way when they're walking by, somebody can always knock and check and make sure that either your pet is taken care of or your family member. If they see that sticker, they'll know to kind of stop and check there.
Okay, thank you. And then
You're welcome.
for those that, I know there's a lot of kits you can buy from different sources. I wondered if West Pierce has kits people can buy, if they like starter kits, something, because some of us just kind of want to purchase kits to have in different places and maybe don't want to take the time to put them together. So what would do you have those types of kits, or recommend a place to go for those?
So West Pierce doesn't sell any, but we do have resources. So I'll share those in an email. But normally we say Amazon. That's where we get a lot of our stuff. And Amazon does have kits that are already made that you can just buy and store.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
As much as we like to promote shop local, there are different businesses in the area. I believe there's one in Tillicum that has, I don't want to call it survivalist stuff, but I guess, for lack of better terms, there are different businesses. And my understanding is that Costco used to also sell kits, and I don't know if they still do. But it doesn't hurt to just kind of look around and see if there's any of our local businesses that supply and provide that as well. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Okay, well, I do know that West Pierce Fire has been started in January, putting up the monthly, what's that called again?
The Prepare in a Year.
Prepare in a year, yes. And so there was an article in the Sub-Times. If you don't subscribe to the Sub-Times, I encourage you to do that. You just get a little regular newsletter update, and there is a focus, a feature of what to prepare for on a monthly basis that Wes Pierce is going to be putting out on the Sub-Times, and I'm sure also on Facebook and other social media outlets. So just tune in, and I think it's a wonderful way for us to have something that's manageable and doable, because you're absolutely right. I think that this fire hose of information can be absolutely overwhelming, and then everybody just quits, right? But I think doing something once a month and just focusing on one area a month, and being able to look back at a year and saying, wow, you come full circle, and just update and clean up, pick up, if you will, I think is great. I think that makes it absolutely doable for all of us. No excuses. Todd, I think you commented, we get lazy. Yeah. Knowing we have heard some of this info and then waiting. That's the truth, right? And so, yes, thank you so much for the reminder, because ultimately, in the event of something as terrible as an earthquake can be, our fire and rescue folks might not be able to get to us. They can't be everywhere, and there's a several day wait for many people in the event of emergencies, and so we can't expect our heroes to show up on our doorsteps immediately after something as bad as an earthquake can be. So we have to figure out how to take care of ourselves. And so thank you very much. Again, we look forward to seeing you. We'll bring you back, and we can show you our kits and our bags, and we'll go from there. But thank you again so much, Serena. This was great information, and everyone has Serena's information, right? And Serena's going to be forwarding me information, and so of course I will be sharing that out with our membership as well. So thanks for joining us. And we'll talk to you soon, Serena.
Thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely. Take care. I want to do a couple of quick updates. Our February general membership luncheon is on the 10th of February, and our city manager, John Caulfield, will be speaking about the state of our city. It'll be a great presentation, and you'll find out all the great stuff that's going on in the city of Lakewood. So tune in for that, February the 10th, 11:30, and of course I'll be getting out a Zoom invite to you. And then on February 16, that'll be our next morning blend, and we will be learning about online hacking and cybersecurity. Once again, applicable to your place of business as well as your personal computer. So that'll be a great program, February 16, 8 a.m. So stay tuned for that. I think that's it. That's all. Sue, Scott, any comments?
About our auction.
Would you like to talk about that? Because I have to excuse myself for just a minute.
Okay, sure.
Thank you.
Well, we are going to have a Valentine's Day auction, or a Valentine's auction for Valentine's Day, and it will start next week and go through the first week of February. And so anything that you have that you would like to donate to be auctioned off, probably everybody got some Christmas things they might like to regift, as long as they're not Christmas, because it is for Valentine's Day. Think of us. We need to keep being creative and finding ways to build our business so we can keep our doors open. We are still open 7 days a week, as you all know. Everyone here is kind of a regular, so I don't need to tell you what we do. But these auctions help us to keep doing what we do. So we'd appreciate anything. We're going to have some baskets and hopefully some dinners out, maybe some motel stays, anything that you can think of that you would like to bid on or see on an auction. So get that information to Linda. She sent out a email that has the form. That's also, I believe, on our website, but if you need a form to complete with your item, and then please drop those off here at the chamber, 9 to 5 Monday through Friday, or 10 to 3 on Saturday or Sunday. Thank you.
Thank you.
Linda, this is Julian. I have a quick announcement, if I may.
Yes.
So Happy New Year, everyone.
Here.
This is Julian Wheeler with Parkland Lakewood Lodge, number 299. Just wanted to let you know that there has finally been a change in the guard. Our new lodge master is Rick Collison. He's a colonel. He teaches JROTC at Clover Park High School. And maybe some of you know him through that capacity, but you'll probably be seeing less of me. But it is, I do wills. Speaking of disaster preparedness, my contact info for the time being is still in the chamber directory. Anyway, thanks for your work, and especially also at the chamber, Sue, Linda, and Scott too. All right, thank you.
Thank you so much, Julian. And obviously, you're welcome to join us anytime you wish. Any other announcements, comments? No one has anything to brag about? Come on. Really?
I got my Wordles correct every time I've guessed. You know what Wordle is? It's a new online game that's been released.
No, I'm not familiar with it.
It's spelled WORDLE. It's just a game. You got to guess the word of the day. Anyway, thanks.
Okay, congratulations. All righty. Well, then we're gonna cut you loose, and I want to thank you all again for joining us. Any questions? I know that Serena did post her email address for direct contact, but as she flows the information out to us, we will be sharing that with you all. So thank you again, and look forward to seeing you soon in person, face to face, right? Take care. Thanks.
Have a great day.